What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an all-new Let's Play Rome 2 Total War Emperor Edition. We are about to dive into a brand new campaign. Now, obviously, Rome 2 Total War has been out for quite some time. I believe it came out in early September of 2013. But one thing I want to point out is I actually grew up playing a lot of the different Total War games, and this was before I really discovered Paradox Entertainment. Obviously, Paradox Entertainment does create grand strategy games, much like the Total War franchises, but ultimately there are a lot of major differences. Now, the Paradox Entertainment kind of focuses on the main macro universe of the Empire. So obviously, don't get me wrong, we have taxations, we have, the ability to build armies, we have trade, we have inflation, but, the Rome Total War and all of these Total War franchises, they have those things too, but it focuses more on the sheer epicness of a lot of these different battles. So, as we continue to move on, you're going to be able to see that we're going to be leading fights, obviously taking control of our generals, moving our pikemen forward, obviously unleashing, many spears from our ballistae, and ultimately just absolutely wrecking enemy armies. But if you look at Europa Universalis 4, you don't get to do any of that, because basically the tactics, are basically chosen for you depending on your technology. So obviously Rome Total War is a very fun game. I definitely played, I believe, Rome 1 Total War growing up. I played Napoleon Total War, Empire Total War, and I have even played Shogunate Total War, so I finally figured might as well purchase Rome 2 Total War and show everybody a little bit about what it's like. There are obviously a variety of improvements, and I will get into that in just a moment. So without further ado, let's dive into our grand campaign. And obviously, with any Total War campaign, we have a variety of different cultures. We have the Roman culture, we have the Carthaginian culture, we have the Eastern Empire culture, and we even have the Gallic tribes inside central France. And much like any Total War game, we obviously have a variety of bonuses and attributes that give our culture a particular uniqueness and particular flavor that makes the game much more interesting. So we are going to be playing as Rome. And, of course, Rome has 15% movement range for all armies due to their marching orders. And though this doesn't necessarily seem all that broken, it is ridiculously broken. And the reason why is because if any enemy army basically decides to trespass, we are going to be able to move 15% faster to basically stopping that threat. And as you can see, this is going to be a very nice defensive perk that is really going to basically shape our empire into the massive country that we want it to be. We also have Roman legions, which is +2 recruitment slot in all of your provinces. And also, this doesn't seem like really a big deal, but I promise you this is broken as well. Having the ability to muster many armies, or basically mustering this giant army very quickly and very efficiently, is going to definitely turn the tides of a lot of future battles. Okay, so now that we've looked at a variety of different cultures, one thing that's new, well, it's kind of new, Rome 1 had this as well, but we have the ability to pick between a variety of different factions, and because Rome is a republic, they obviously have a senate, which has a variety of different factions battling for political control. So this is kind of like your family, kind of like your dynasty. So we have the House of Julia, House of Junia, and the House of Cornelia. And though they had factions in Rome 1, each particular dynasty only controlled a particular region of Italy, so a particular region of Rome. So that's not necessarily, too true today. So we are going to be playing as the House of Julia, and the reason why, don't get me wrong, the Barbarian Subduers are really nice, plus 15% melee attack during battles against barbarian tribes, but ultimately, as we conquer more and more territories, we would really like the Romanization, which is +6 to cultural conversion. And ultimately what that means is as we conquer more territories, we're going to be going into further and further away from Rome, so we're going to be experiencing a lot of different cultures. And so as we begin to convert those cultures to Latin, it'll be a heck of a lot quicker than not having Romanization. But that means is as we convert these cultures to Latin, they won't necessarily have rebels, they won't necessarily have slave uprisings as nearly as often. So we do want to also point that out, and I guess without further ado, let's dive in. And I remember growing up, I used to go to my friend's house all the time for sleepovers, and he had this computer, and it would play Rome 1 Total War when it was a pretty high-tech computer with a nice graphics card. And I used to go over there, and for 3 or 4 hours, I would literally just play Rome 1 Total War, and it really began to shape my love for all of the Total War campaigns.
You are at war with the Etruscan League. March north and capture their territories. This will allow you to consolidate Italia and ensure the safety of Rome. You must wage war if you hope to extend your dominion. Syracuse and Carthage own territory in Magna Graecia, so conflict with them is inevitable if you wish to expand across the Mediterranean. Otherwise, they may prove useful allies against Etruria or the Gaulish tribes to the north. Come what may, Rome will triumph.
Okay, so right off the bat, you can see that we have an objective that's been issued, and basically this is the way for the developers to guide us into the campaign without actually putting, obviously this is a sandbox game where you can do anything you want, but it kind of guides your empire, to obvious greatness by obviously giving you a lot of rewards for doing very minimal tasks. So we have the ability to completely control 2 provinces, either by direct ownership or through client states and military allies, and we're going to get 2,500 coin, which is a lot of money. So the very first thing I want to point out is we have the Rome 2 Total War map. And what that means is the only thing that's really different is much like Rome 1, we have a variety of different cities, but in Rome 2, there are basically zones of control and different provinces that actually give you unique bonuses if you somehow manage to control all the provinces or all of the cities within a particular province. So we have the province of Italia, we have Magna Graecia, and we have Corsica and Sardinia. And so what's neat is if Rome or any other country was basically able to secure every single province or every single city within a province, you have the ability to enact edicts. And these are policies that can go a variety of different ways. You can get better taxation, you can do something called bread and games, which gives you more food, gives you more culture conversion, and ultimately the idea is you get to play the game how you want. And I do like this because it ultimately gives you a lot of unique benefits and bonuses that make your empire really familiar, and it lets you do a lot of micromanagement as well, which is really awesome and really unique. Okay, so our very first goal is actually, our number one goal is obviously to complete that mission, which is to destroy the Etruscan League. Luckily enough, they aren't very powerful, so it should not be all that big of a deal. All 3 of these provinces are owned by the Etruscan League, but let's go ahead. And our number one priority is, you can see how we have the ability to expand and build up some of our cities. So when we look at Rome itself, you can see that the province of Italia, which is, remember what we were talking about, the province of Italia, not just the city, we have 5 populations, so all these people have nowhere to go, and so we could really improve the population of Rome, Neapolis, if we had Velathria or Araminium. So basically we could use 3 of this population to basically grow a particular city. And so obviously there are caps. We can only have 6 buildings in a particular province early in the game, but it does add a lot of unique flavors, which definitely makes the game more fun. So our number one priority, though it would make a ton of sense to improve Rome, I really like to have my capital as this really high-tech military building, and I don't necessarily think we need a farm inside Rome, or excuse me, we only have 1 military building early on, so it doesn't make too much sense to, build like a farm and destroy it later. So what we're going to do is make Neapolis, which is still part of Italia. We are going to use 3 of, actually it's 4 now, Rome is 3. We're going to use 4 of these population to obviously expand the city, and you're going to see it grow in just a moment. And there you go. Eventually, there are going to be a new town growing on in. And what we want to do is we already have a port. We have consecrated ground, which I'll talk about, which is kind of like a little bit of a temple. But our number one priority is we need food, because when winter comes and we don't have a farm, we are going to be in a bit of a predicament as we can't feed our armies. Our cities will starve. So what we want to do is build up a villa. And though it does make a little bit of money, it only makes about 40 wealth from agriculture, which improves the entire province. What we really want to do is obviously get the food from this villa. So that was 700 coin. Moving on down to Magna Graecia. Once again, we have 3 population. I think we're going to be building up Cosentia here. And wow, they do not like us. So what we're going to do is use 1 population to expand Cosentia. And we are going to be building up a consecrated ground. And the idea is, yes, we get public order, but we also get Latin cultural influence. And so over time, it looks like the Hellenistic culture is actually taking flight. So unfortunately, Latin culture is dwindling. So what we got to do is build this temple, and then hopefully we can try to switch this on up. Maybe Latin culture will continue to improve, and maybe we could slow down the Hellenistic subset. So we also have a military down here. We have 2 legions right now and a navy. So we have Legion 1, we have Legion 2, and we have our navy. So what we want to do is move this unit on up all the way closer to Araminium. So let's go ahead and make your way on to that direction. And another thing that I guess I failed to mention is Rome 2 Total War is turn-based, unlike the Paradox development games, or Paradox Studio games. So I'm sure that you're well aware that many Paradox game is like real time. You pause the game, but every single month you collect taxes or something like that. But in fact, in Rome 2 and the Total War series, you actually play by season. So right now we're in the summer season, and ultimately, as we continue to push on through, during winter, we're going to have a lot of issues, but what's the neatest part about Rome is you get to take all the time you want, and ultimately you're not really pressured to do any type of situations that you don't really want to do. So, in a sense, it's nice because there's a lot of, patience, but unfortunately it does remove the element of surprise that Paradox development games have. So now that we've moved this army, let's go ahead and try to construct a variety of troops. We can now have, let's build about 3 additional units. Looking up at Rome, I want these units to move on up closer to Velathri, but what's neat is you can see that this green symbol right by Roma shows grasslands. We're actually going to move them into the forest. So if we are going to be attacked, we should be able to set up a very nice ambush. Let's go ahead and produce some units. I want to get about 3 swordsmen and 2 pikemen. And the reason why I say this is because swordsmen are good against pikemen. Pikemen are good against cavalry, which we don't have. Cavalry are good against archers. And archers are primarily good, not archers, but ranged units. And, ranged units are particularly good against swordsmen. And not necessarily good against pikemen, because pikemen usually have more armor, or at least in Rome they do. So another thing that I also want to point out is we are going to be trying to get technology sometime soon. And because early on they do want us to go into a particular, set of branches here. We have the military branches and we have the civil branches. So obviously this is, if we did unlock the civil branch, we would eventually unlock an economy, philosophy, and construction technologies. Whereas if we went with military technology supply reforms, we would eventually unlock new management, new tactics, and better siege equipment. So I think my number one priority is I am going to go and unlock supply reforms. And the reason why I say that is because I do want to build siege equipment sometime soon. And I would love to have ballista rather than actual, ranged units themselves. And the reason why is because ballista do a lot of damage, but they can attack from such a long range. The idea would be to whittle down your enemy as much as we can before they actually get to you. So that's going to be my plan. Rather than marching headstrong with a lot of, swordsmen, I'm going to try to have a cunning play style where I use tactics and strategy to, obviously whittle down the enemy with, while also trying to prioritize the amount of forces that we have. And that means, preventing loss of life. I'm going to exit this. And finally, the last thing that I want to do, we're going to make 2,400 coins next turn. I also want to go ahead and build up some additional levy ships. These are not good by any means, but I do want to have a naval invasion against Eulalia. I have no idea if it's going to work. So I guess we're going to make our way down in a couple turns to the Etruscan League inside Corsica. And finally, the last thing we can do is we have an agent here who is a spy. We're going to move you as close to Araminium as we can, which I guess we could bring you in. I don't think I want to go into Araminium, just next to it. All we're doing is we're scouting around. Do they have any type of forces here? Not that I can see. So all we're going to do is basically end this turn and prepare for turn 2. And what's neat is this game, there are so many different countries. Obviously, compared to Rome 1, this is just exponentially more. And here we are, our hidden agent has been found. War has been declared between Athens and Epirus, which is way the heck over here. Shipwright, we built some ships, and we obviously built a massive army. So as you can see, we were making 2,400 coins every single turn, but now we're really only making about 1,600. So as our army gets stronger and stronger, we are going to be having a little bit of issues. So let's bring these guys up to Italia. You are actually going to march this way. And now we are going to be building some additional units inside Italia as well. Let's build some swordsmen. I don't really know if we need this many units, but I think we're going to be fine. Can we move a little bit closer to Corsica? And yes, we can. Can we still build some units? Yes, we can. So just like that, we have run out of money. Surprisingly enough, I've got everything I want. This consecrated ground is going to take one more turn to complete. And we are obviously still waiting for this villa to construct itself before winter comes. Hopefully we won't run out of food. Ending our turn. So basically early on it's going to be really fast paced. But as we continue to push through the campaign, it is going to slow down as we have to manage our entire empire. So just like that, supply reforms have been unlocked. We have now basically, our hidden agent has been exposed again. So now that we have supply reforms, obviously we've unlocked management, tactics, and siege, which are all of these different branches. But ultimately we gained the ability to construct a manipular barracks and an auxiliary camp. So let's go ahead and buy that now. I need Rome to be the biggest military province that I can construct, and I'll show you why in a minute. This is expensive. 1,500 coin, but we are going to get better defensive garrison, so if we are ever to be attacked, we are now going to have 4 hastati rather than 2, so that's not bad. But ultimately, equites, I believe, are cavalry units. I guess we'll find out in a minute. We also get principes, which are basically like swordsmen, and we get triari, which are ultimately, what's the word I'm looking for? Pikemen and swordsmen. So there went all of our money. We are probably going to attack next turn. Do we have the ability to construct one more unit or one more naval vessel? I don't think we're going to have any issue conquering this province. I could make a levy unit, but I'd rather have an additional boat. And I don't have enough. I need 6 coin. So let's go ahead and create 1 unit of levies. Actually, in fact, I think what we're going to do is we have levies. Let's build a Rorari and end this turn. Don't have any technologies researched. Our number 1 priority is to basically unlock the workshop, and it's only going to take 2 turns, but what I would love to do is eventually create a siege shop or a siege workshop here inside Rome, and then I could finally build Ballista. But my number 1 priority now is, I guess, building up our economy. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. Can this guy move a little bit closer? Yes, it can. Ending our turn. And with one, swift movement of my pen, what I'm gonna do is declare war. Actually, I guess we already are at war with the Etruscan League. I am about to try to do my naval invasion first. I don't see any actual units here, so I'm hoping we can overwhelm them. And it looks like we cannot. And the reason why is because we don't have any type of actual army units. We mainly have a navy, they have an actual army, even though a lot of them are just peasants. So what we're going to do is maintain the blockade. If we do get attacked, we could easily annihilate whatever navy they send at us. So what we're going to do is keep these guys blockaded. I don't see any units inside Araminium, so we're going to swing on up, try to annihilate whatever the heck we can. And because we know we're going to absolutely win this fight, they don't have a single army here. They obviously have their navy from their port, and this is just peasants because they have a little bit of a garrison. We're going to auto-resolve this battle because we know we're going to win, and whenever we do an auto-resolve, we always want to look at the win chance and then the remaining forces. So I see that an aggressive stance is the best option. Let's annihilate this town. And eventually we're going to be moving up Italia as well. Or, excuse me, this first legion. Now, once again, now that we've conquered this area, we can occupy it, loot it, or just raze it to the ground. My number one goal is to occupy this province, because what I want to do is gain a lot from their economic development, and obviously grow my taxation in whatever ways I can. Let's send out our scout, see if we can find their troops, and it looks like we found their army. So what we're going to do is make our way straight to Velathri. They don't have any walls. And I guess I know I'm going to win this fight. Let's go ahead and encircle for now. And I am going to go ahead and end this episode. So thank you all so much for joining me. Hope you all have an awesome day. I will see you in our next adventure.